Coming up on today's episode of the Moneypants Superpower Hour. A former dean at Stanford University wrote a blog titled Adult Skills Every 18-Year-Old Should Have. We took the idea and ran with it. We came up with about 40 skills every kid should have before they leave home. And we're going to talk about how Moneypants can help. We'll discuss some of the best resources for teaching etiquette, hygiene, basic computer skills, as well as the most effective way to teach your child to read, write, and communicate. All this and more, but first, the joke of the day.
A cruise ship passes by a remote island, and all the passengers see a bearded man running around and waving his arms wildly. "Captain," one of the passengers asks, "who is that man over there?" "I have no idea," the captain says, "but he goes nuts every year when we pass him." Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Moneypants Superpower Hour. We are your hosts, Hannah and Fontaine Judd, and we're the proud parents of 8 sons and 7 daughters, ranging in age from newborn to college student. We're both BYU graduates and the creators of Moneypants. Head on over to CaptainMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. We believe every person on this planet has been given at least one superpower to help them accomplish their unique mission in life. But the only way to unlock those superpowers is through work ethic. That's when greatness happens. And that's where Moneypants comes in. Moneypants is the complete toolset for cultivating work ethic in all aspects of a person's life. And today's topic is from an article I read many years ago called Adult Skills Every 18-Year-Old Should Have. And it was written by the former dean of Stanford University, and who, of course, she saw her fair share of incoming students who were really ill-prepared for college life and being on their own. And so she kind of wrote down like some of her observations of these are the things that I noticed kids really need. These are the basic things kids need to survive when they get out on their own. And I thought she had
kind of a unique experience,
a
working
unique perspective.
Working someplace where you have kids leaving home for the first time and kind of seeing how kids are faring once they're off on their own.
Exactly. And so she had, I thought, a unique perspective and some really insightful ideas. And we're going to quote some of the things that she said, but basically what we did is we took her list and kind of expanded it to be like, these are the skills we think every kid should have before they leave home. And of course, it's the job of the parents to teach these things. But
yeah, she only listed like 8.
I think she had 8. Yeah, we have something like 40.
Yeah.
But I think these are all really good, and these are things I hope my kids learn. These are skills that I want my kids to have, and I think they're universal. That's what we're kind of going for here. It's like a universal list of things that every kid should have in their skill set before they leave home. And some of them are really simple, but some of them are like, oh, I didn't think of that. The problem, though, is that we notice a lot of people give a lot of advice. And even this lady, this Stanford dean, was giving advice, but she didn't give any practical tools on how to do it. Like, she's like, well, they need to have this skill and this skill and this skill, but she didn't say, how do you develop that? Like, how do you know how to work? Or how do you know how to balance a budget or whatever? She didn't say. She just said they need to have these skills, not how to get these skills. And
granted, we didn't read her book. It might say
her book.
Maybe
it's in her book.
But in the blog we read, it was just, they should know these things.
Right. And so we're not about giving advice. We're about practical application of correct principles. I said, like, if you're looking for advice, go look up one of these advice columns, Dear Abby or Ann Landers, or go read your horoscope. If that's what you're after, there's plenty of advice out there. That's not what we're about. Moneypants, we're about the practical application of principles, but also being efficient with your time and limited resources and limited energy. And so we don't give advice, we give tools and ideas on how to get.
That's our objective. It's like, okay, we've made this mistake, don't do that. We've done this and it works really well. And this is what we did, and this is, what the results were. We try to keep it that way. We may every once in a while cross the line, but we're trying
to always come from a place of experience.
Yeah.
I think it's one of our strong suits, Hannah, is I don't like giving advice. It's not my thing. But I can tell you, boy, I can speak to experience on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
Because I've raised a lot of kids. I'm still raising a lot of kids.
And that's just it. It's like, I've often thought, like, when we're making these podcasts, I'm like, okay, we're trying to share our experiences of what worked, what didn't work. But in case it's not abundantly clear, we're still learning. We've learned a lot, but it's still a process for us as well. So, we may find better ways in the future, or, and if we do, we'll share them.
Well, that's the neat thing, Hannah, is because we already have kids who've left home, but we also have really young children. We are constantly learning and refining and people give us new ideas all the time, and we try them out. Now, some of them we don't have to try out because we were like, oh, we already did that. We know that doesn't work. Whereas other things we'll try out and we'll be like, oh, wow, that's better. More often, though, unfortunately, no, that didn't work. It sounded like a good idea. We tried it out.
Yeah, every once in a while, something sounds like a really clever idea, and we'll try it out. And sometimes it doesn't. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work how we anticipated that it would work. And we've shared that in a couple of blogs, like experiments that we did. Like we tried doing digital money, for example.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute flop. It was an absolute
failure. It seems like it'd be a great idea.
We wanted it to work. We wanted it to work so badly, and it just didn't. And we tried for over a year trying to make that work, and it just did not work.
Can you think of any other things that we've tried, though, that were flops?
Yeah, I'd rather not share. No. We've tried a lot of things that were flops. Well, yeah, we had listened to one parenting thing once that kind of had extreme ideas.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, kind of had extreme ideas.
Well, one of the ideas was, if your children don't make their bed, here's a great idea, take it away. That'll teach them. And we realized that
kind of style. It just led to power struggles, and it wasn't.
And it didn't teach
It didn't
teach the lessons you were hoping.
It just caused resentment. Because
it was extreme.
It wasn't like, oh, thanks, Mom and Dad. I understand now. Haha, that was a great lesson. Instead, it was just resentment.
Yeah, there are better ways to teach that lesson.
Yeah. So we've tried some stupid ideas, like some ideas out that.
Another idea we never tried, though, because we'd already tried the take the bed away thing. Another idea we tried was, or that we didn't try, but we heard was, oh, if your children don't take their clothes and put them away, if they leave their dirty clothes on the floor, just nail gun your kids' clothes to the floor. And they'll spend hours prying the nails out of their clothes. And I'm like,
no,
we're not going to do that. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so some of our ideas, we've tried, they didn't work, but most of the time when we share these ideas and these thoughts and these suggestions, it's coming from a place of experience where, we've tried it. And typically we try to only share the things that we know worked.
Yeah. And we also are keenly aware that sometimes, like, people will have advice of, hey, do it this way. And it works for the majority of kids, but there's always that one or two that, it doesn't work for, so we try to give advice that you can apply to almost
we try to
any
keep
child.
We try to keep it universal.
Yeah.
Because we do have those kids who do push the boundaries. We have quite a variety of personalities.
Yeah.
And so when we try out these ideas, if you have one or two kids, it may work for both of your kids. But when you have as many children as we have, we realize pretty quickly, that would work for these 3 kids, but it won't work for these others.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when we give these ideas, we're like, this works. Ideally, this works for everybody. As a matter of fact, we've even had parents come to us who have autistic children, of which we don't have any. And they've told us how, but if we do it, the neat thing is, hopefully and ideally, it would work, because these are correct principles that we're trying really hard to expound on and give correct principles that are kind of universal in their application.
Yeah, but we're not doctors. We're just experienced, though. We're coming from a unique perspective in that we have a lot of experiences. Mm-hmm. We're both from large families. You and I come from very different families, very different background experiences, and we've had the experience of raising so many different children, different personalities from the time they're little, and we're still in the midst of it. We
Right.
still have teenagers, we still have infants and toddlers and everything in between. And so it's all fresh on our minds. So it's a kind of a different perspective than having people talk about, theories and studies that have been done versus or ideas of how it should be versus somebody going, okay, I tried this and I tried it for, years, or it's the experience. And one time we listened to a parenting advice that was kind of similar to Moneypants. And it was just frustrating because it was all theory and there wasn't any practical way to apply it.
Right.
And so it was actually very difficult to take the theories and actually go, okay, well, how do you actually do that? And so that's where listening to Moneypants comes in handy. Is, okay, all right, let's take a practical, very, very practical view on this.
I think that's what it is. Hannah.
How's it done?
It's practical.
How do you go about that?
I like to think it's practical.
Yeah, I hope it's practical.
Well, and again, we're coming from a place of limited time, limited energy, limited resources, and we're trying to maximize those. So anyway, having said all of that, and having read this article by this former dean of Stanford University and kind of taken all of her ideas and kind of meshed them into one and then expanded on them, this is the list. And I think we have like 40.
Yeah, and let's just go ahead and read the list.
40 basic skills every kid should have before they leave home. And so here we go. And these are in no particular order. These are just kind of, we just rattle them off. It's not like the most important is first and the least important is last. It's just except the most important is first. But after that, it's in no specific order. But here we go. Number 1, work ethic. Number 2, money management. Number 3, how to save, shop, and spend. Number 4, how to do taxes and how taxes work and all that. Number 5, how to invest or start an investment account, how interest works. Number 6, how to deal with failure. Number 7, how to apply for a job and how to handle themselves during an interview. Number 9, how to research, how to check things out, how to get background on topics or other people or product reviews, like how to research something. Number 10, how to do their laundry. Got some funny stories about that. Now, number 11, how to cook. Boy, wouldn't that be a critical thing to know before you leave home. Number 12, how to run a home. How to make sure you're safe, how to clean it, or even simple things like how to swap a light bulb or clean a toilet. Number 13, every kid should know before they leave home how to clean up after themselves. And that is unfortunately, that's almost like a lost art of simply cleaning up after yourself. Number 14, how to take care of yourself with personal hygiene. Number 15, time management. Number 16, how to go to bed. That sounds funny. I love that one, but that's a skill, is how to go to bed, how to put yourself to bed at a decent hour and wake up at a decent hour and have that self-control. Number 17, how to dress and carry yourself. Number 18, how to do your hair, whether you're a guy or a girl. And whether you're giving yourself a haircut as a guy or styling your own hair as a girl or vice versa, that's something you need to know. Because believe it or not, people judge you based on how your hair looks. Like, think about it for a second. Imagine somebody with a horrible haircut or a hairstyle, and what did you think? And now imagine somebody who's done their hair really nice, and how does that change your perspective of them? Number 19. The number 19 skill that your kids should have before they leave home, social skills and etiquette. Number 20, dating skills and etiquette. Number 21, internet and phone skills and etiquette as well as safety. Number 22, problem solving when it comes to relationships, how to handle interpersonal problems. Number 23, how to get answers to prayers and how to recognize God's influence and direction. Boy, that's a big one. Number 24, how to take notes and how to develop good study habits. Number 25, computer skills. I remember, and I will get into this later, but I remember years ago at a work party, they were asking the owner, they brought in a bunch of high school kids in to tour the place, and they asked the owner, hey, what's the number one skill, we need to make it big in the industry? And he goes, learn to type. And they were all so disappointed because no one wanted to know how to type. But that was it. He's like, you got to know how to type. Number 26, how to read, write, and communicate. Boy, communication, that is key. Number 27, government. Understanding how the government works, like how to vote, how to get information, what's a town meeting, how to contact your local representation, like on a local, national, even on a global level. Like how does all this stuff work and how to affect change. Yeah, number 28, transportation, how to get around, how to ride a bike or drive a car or use public transportation or a Lyft or an Uber. And also like what to do when plans go wrong and dealing with travel snafus and other transportation-related things, because like we were saying earlier, where we kind of do everything for our kids, and they don't know how to get around. Number 29, automobile maintenance or bicycle maintenance or motorcycle maintenance, whatever it is that you're using for transportation, how do you maintain it? Number 30, every adult child should know how to swim. Number 31, how to react and deal with emergencies, whether it's CPR, Heimlich, dealing with burns or bleeds or suicide or an active shooter. Where's the local hospital? How to get there? What to do during a tornado or an earthquake or a hurricane or a flood or a fire?
How to call 911.
How to call 911. Surprisingly, that you're going to laugh. You're like, you call 911. I heard somebody one time ask, "What's the number for 911?" No joke. They asked what the number was for 911. Oh my goodness. So they never learned these things. But also how to turn off the water main in your house if there's a plumbing leak, or how to turn off the gas main if there's a gas leak. These are good things that may save your life. Number 32, the kids should know basic survival skills. It may just be something as simple as watching Bear Grylls, but I'm talking like, they need to know camping, hiking, and how to make a fire. Like these are like Neanderthal skills, but these are things that are kind of lost in our society today. Number 33, every child that leaves our home, Hannah, I hope they will have learned some sort of basic self-defense. And then 34, how to relax and maintain balance in their lives. Number 35, how to discover, develop, and cultivate their personal superpowers. And we talk about that a lot. Number 36, they need to know how to develop a talent or hobby which helps them relax. Develop some sort of sport or a physical activity. Maybe it's dance or tennis. It doesn't matter, but something that helps them relax and to maintain that balance in their lives. But it's also a physical activity. Number 37, basic leadership, where they have the opportunity to lead something. They need that skill. Even if it's not finally keenly refined,
how to be in charge of something.
How to be in charge of something. And then number 38, how to teach or lead a discussion.
Wait a minute, you only have 38 on your list.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to change.
It's not 40. It was. I said it was close. Yeah, I said it was close. Maybe I did say it was 40, but it's only 38. So there we go. There's the 38 different. Like I think those are basic skills every kid should have before they leave home. Just those things. If our kids, if each one of my kids leaves home with these basics, I'll be happy. I'll be like, okay, I did my best as a parent. I tried. I got at least some of these things instilled into my children. If I get more than that, hey, great. But I feel like these are like the foundation for them to be successful in life, but also not to be like completely lost when they get out on their own. Because again, going back to this former dean of Stanford University, she saw these poor children who were totally lost. I remember, there's the comic where there's a guy, a graduate student who first day on the job, and he gets handed the mop, and he complains to his boss. He says, with the mop in hand, he's like, "What are you doing? I'm a graduate student." And the boss goes, "Oh, I didn't realize that. Here, let me show you how to use it." where the idea is that these kids are getting all this education, but they don't have any practical skills, like any valuable, you can apply them today skills. And it's kind of frustrating where, and I've heard employers complain about this too, where the employees don't want to work and don't know how to work and don't know how to use the computer and don't know these basic things that you kind of expect your employees to know.
Right. Well, and part of my interest in this was the fact that I was a really good student all growing up, and I was a hard worker. But there were gaps in my education as far as like I knew how to clean bathrooms, I knew how to cut up fruits and vegetables, but I had never cooked the main meat. I had never mopped a floor. I had never, ever done my own laundry, ever. And so I got to college and I immediately ruined all my clothing.
Now, you had a full ride academic scholarship. You weren't dumb.
Yes, I wasn't dumb, but I felt dumb.
But here's the thing. There were these gaps, and we call this domestic education.
Yeah.
There were these gaps in your domestic education that weren't being taught in school.
Yeah, so and even like, for example, I had always had a bank account growing up, but when I went to college, I signed up for a bank account, and I accidentally signed up for an overdraft, like having an overdraft. And so I didn't know that every time I went over my amount, they were putting $100 into my account. And years later, I was shocked and mortified to find out, and I found out at the worst possible time. I found out right after I got married and was dirt poor. I found out that I had $500 of debt to my bank.
That was a wedding present.
And yeah, my husband
sweetie, guess
was
what?
like, what a dowry. So anyway.
A negative dowry.
Yeah.
We're giving you our daughter with debt.
I didn't know how to get myself places. And quite frankly, I wasn't even good at driving a car because I had gotten my license so late that at one point my husband informed me that, oh, when you park on the opposite side of the road, you can't do that. I'd be driving along, I'd see a parking space on the opposite side of the road, and I just drive over there and park there facing backwards. And
facing oncoming traffic.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the reason I never got a ticket for it, probably because they assumed I was jump starting someone else's car. but no, I just kind of missed the memo there. But it kind of sounds like I'm an idiot, but I wasn't an idiot. I just didn't.
But that's just it. You didn't. No, Hannah, that's just it. You just didn't know.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the other day where the significance of having somebody simply show you, and it takes all of 5 minutes. There was a lady who our kids were the same age, and we would go over to her house from time to time. And she had a bunch of little kids, and she had some older kids. I think she had 4 kids, and her oldest was like 8. And he was a terror. And he was just that kid who wouldn't wash his hands ever and would smear peanut butter and jelly on the couch as he walked by, but not aware. He was just that kid, kind of a messy kid. And we're in the house, and her couch and her furniture and basically her whole house was spotless. Like she had just bought it, and we're like, wow, this is a nice couch. How old is it? And she's like, I was like 8 years old. We're
and
like,
I was just like, what?
What? How?
You have little kids like I do. My couch is disgusting.
How is that possible? And she's like, oh no, it gets disgusting all the time. I just rent a such and such tool. What did you call it? A steam cleaner, and I steam clean it, and it looks like this. And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What is this magic voodoo of which you speak? It looked brand new. It really did. It looked amazing, but we never.
She moved after that because I was like, you have to show me this thing.
And she never showed us. And so we went and we rented what we thought was the right machine at the store, and it did nothing. And we're like, dang it. What was her secret? And if she had just spent 5 minutes showing us, we could have been like, oh, that's how she does it. But because we never got that knowledge, she never showed us, we don't know.
Yeah, whatever she did, I'm actually trying to get a hold of her on Facebook right now. That's why this is on our minds. I'm like, okay, there's got to be an easier way to clean rugs than what I do.
But there's so much power in just taking 5 minutes to show somebody, this is how you do it. And it's like, oh, that's it? That's it. So, okay, so having said that, let's kind of go back through our list.
Yeah. I want to go back through the list of those things, and chances are you probably agree with some or maybe most or all of the things on our list.
Or maybe we're totally batty.
Yeah, and we wanted to talk about how you can use Moneypants to help you accomplish this. It's a long list, and that's a lot to do, and it can maybe seem overwhelming, but if you're using Moneypants, we're going to give you ideas of how you can accomplish these things using Moneypants, or if not Moneypants, maybe throw some other ideas out there.
Well, that's just it, Hannah. Parents have their kids for a limited time. And yes, your job is to enjoy them, but also your job is to prepare them. And this list is a really good thing to do with your kids. It's
this is a practical how to prepare, like things to prepare.
But it's also, this would be a great podcast to listen to with your kids, to give them ideas and get their feedback, because some of these things, they may get really excited. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Other things would be like, yeah, Mom and Dad, I don't know that. I'm terrified about that. Will you help me?
Yeah.
And some of these things maybe they haven't even considered, because how would you know? As a kid, you don't know.
Well, yeah, because for example, if I had heard this list when I was a teenager, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know how to work the washing machine. I don't know how to do my laundry. I do want help learning that. So if you have like teenagers at home or young teens at home, have them listen to this, or go through this list, and maybe we'll do a blog on it. They can highlight the things that, hey, Mom and Dad, I don't know these things. Let's come up with a plan to learn them. Anyway, but today we're just going to go through and throw out some ideas of how you can use Moneypants to help prepare your kids to leave home.
All right. Well, let's start with number one. And I said this was in no particular order, but number one actually is in our opinion, the most important, because without work, and it's work ethic. And we claim that, without work ethic, nothing else really matters, because it doesn't matter how talented you are, how many skills you have, if you don't know how to use them and do it consistently and have that work ethic, it won't do you a darn bit of good. So that's the number one thing on our list is work ethic. And well, if you're doing Moneypants, that's one of the byproducts. That's one of our claims, is that if you use the system the way it's intended and implement Moneypants and have your kids earn some of the things that you're used to giving for free and give them their own financial responsibilities for those items, they will learn work ethic. It's a byproduct of using the Moneypants system. And that's what we hope for. And that's the whole reason we made this program, is to give our kids that ultimate edge of work ethic. Because once they have that, a lot of these other things just kind of fall into place. And if they have work ethic, they'll be able to do the rest of the things on the list and be really prepared for, and actually maybe even have that much more of an advantage over their peers, because they're so much more prepared for the real world when they finally leave home, whether it's at 18 or 20 or even 26 for whatever reason. When they finally leave home and to start their own lives, they'll be ready and they won't be overwhelmed. And that's a haunting feeling, Hannah, leaving home and being like, oh, what am I doing? I don't know anything. Because you think you're all excited to leave home. Because I remember leaving home and I was all excited about it, but I realized, wait a minute, now granted, I'm a little more independent than most, but that's a haunting feeling, realizing that you're unprepared. Okay.
Number 2 is money management, and this covers credit cards, balancing a checkbook, how to budget save, how to pay bills. All money matters. And
Right.
the thing is when you send your kids off to college, a lot of huge financial mistakes happen at that point.
Right.
And so you really, that's when the credit card companies send credit cards to, it's actually kind of predatory behavior from the credit card companies, because they know 18-year-olds typically don't know anything,
Right.
but their parents will bail them out. But the thing that we would recommend there is Dave Ramsey has a course for teenagers to actually prepare them just for that.
Yeah.
And he's a source, he has a whole course, and he's a fantastic source. So use that, maybe set up a goal on Moneypants to get through that, and then set up a reward for if they finish this Dave Ramsey course.
Make it their weekly habit for 12 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah. And then,
And if they go, and the neat thing is if you attach mastery points to those, then you can get like some sort of big reward
at the end.
At the end, which is cool.
And then as far as like budgeting and saving, just doing Moneypants each year where they have to create a budget and they go through that whole process of creating a budget, it makes it so it's like second nature to them. And so we've noticed that as we've started sending kids out of the house and off onto their own, this is not a problem for them at all. They totally understand this and are able to handle their own budgets with no problem. And then even our
because
daughter,
they've been doing it forever.
Yeah, and our daughter Trixie, she's a senior this year. She was taking a business class, and they were learning about budgets and things like that. And she said all the kids in her class, she was like, "Oh yeah, duh, that's how a budget is." But all the kids in her class were like all wide-eyed and like, "Oh, really? What is this? And what is that for?"
Yeah.
And we're just, it was all brand new to them. And that's a lot of, if you're leaving home not having ever used a budget and you've just barely heard about a budget, and all of a sudden you're supposed to manage money. And your
how
parents
overwhelming, how terrifying.
Yeah,
it's just, wow.
So if you use Moneypants year after year, it's your kids are like, "Oh, a budget. I've been handling a budget my whole life."
Right.
So it's no problem for them. So between Dave Ramsey and using the budgeting program
Moneypants.
on Moneypants, your kids
we call it the spending plan.
Your kids will be way far ahead.
But also because they have these things that they're saving for and they're making these spending plans, they'll understand the concept of paying bills and how to save up money for a particular bill in the future. And
so if they're having to pay an electric bill or something like that, well, if they've been doing Moneypants and been paying for their music lessons that come up every month or dance lessons each month, they'll understand how to pay bills because they've been doing it on a smaller scale by themselves. So it's not going to be overwhelming. It'll be second nature. They'll be fine. The next thing is you want your kids to understand the principles of shopping.
So this is number three, number three skill.
Not only shopping for clothing, but shopping for what school to go to, shopping for...
Well, okay, so that's just it. We say shopping and you're like, oh, clothes. But no, shopping is one of those things that the principles apply across the board, whether it's a relationship and you're shopping for a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or, of course, you're shopping for a school to go to, or a graduate school or a graduate program or a trade school, like shopping around, or whether you're shopping for maybe a house or clothes or a car, or maybe you're shopping for a job. Like these are all correct. These are principles of kind of doing your homework and trying to figure out like what the best bang for your buck, what's the most effective use of your money and your time. And anyway, it's cool. It's really cool to watch the kids. If you use Moneypants and have the kids, have your kids and all your family members for that matter, if they all stick to their spending plans, and they're going to learn, oh, I have this amount of money and I have these required things that I need.
How can I get the most bang for my buck?
Right. Within these limits.
Yeah.
And then we talk about directed spending too. Is that here?
But they end up doing more research and, not just settling for the first thing that they see and, asking and getting input from other people. And anyway, they end up putting more work into it and understanding, hey, this is how you shop. This is how you go about things. So you don't, I told the story about how my dad said, hey, you need to buy your own car insurance. And so I said, well, what car insurance do you have? And they just said, what their car insurance was. It was State Farm. And I called them up. And at that time, that was not a good deal for someone my age. They did not have a good deal. I don't know what they have now. But at that time, it was really expensive. It was probably the most expensive insurance I could have bought. And I ended up blowing all my money on car insurance. And
in a very short period of time.
But it didn't even occur to me to call around and get quotes from other insurance companies because I had never done it. I didn't know how to shop.
But that's just it. If someone had just, going back to this idea of if someone had spent 5 minutes and demonstrated to you how to do it.
Yeah, you call and you ask, you collect them all up.
Then you compare.
Then you compare. Then you make your decision.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
That is such a great skill to have. Every kid, when they leave home, should have that skill. How to shop.
So the idea is to give your kids the chance to practice on a smaller scale. So if you use Moneypants, where they're having to buy some of their own things, like their own clothes and things like that,
Or their own sporting equipment, or their own classes.
That's not as overwhelming. It's a nice small. And the mistakes. If they make mistakes,
No.
they won't.
When
they make mistakes, they're going to be small mistakes.
Yeah.
And they'll learn from those. So when it comes to buying a house, they're not going to be, it's not going to be their first time they've ever done shopping. You know, it's not going to be their first time.
It's so much better for them to make a $10 mistake when they're young versus a $100,000 mistake when they're older. Like, get the mistakes, learn from the mistakes, get those out of your system when you're young, and learn the lessons when you're young and under the tutelage of mom and dad, so that you don't make those mistakes when you're older and the stakes are so much higher.
Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of this will naturally happen if you use Moneypants.
Right.
And they'll develop those skills naturally.
The next one, number 4, I think is a logical extension of the whole money thing, is how to pay taxes and how taxes work. And that's usually a shocker. My son recently left home, and he is paying for his own car registration. And he is shocked at how much it is in taxes and how much he pays for in taxes and fees. And he's like, is this normal? And I'm like, yes, it is. This is a normal thing. And he didn't realize how, and we've tried to prepare our kids, but somehow that one, this is our son who really understands money. And he was shocked at how much the tax, because we talked to him about taxes. He understands taxes, but until I guess maybe the real world kicks in, and and then my daughter who worked for McDonald's, she was complaining to me.
Wasn't like the registration like $1,000?
It's like $1,000 to the title, the transfer of title, and the registration and all that was like $1,000. It's like, I'm sorry, man, that's just how it is. But then my other daughter, who was working fast food, she's like, hey, Dad, they took all this money out. Do I get that back? I'm like, no, my dear, that's taxes. You don't get that money back.
She was so mad.
She was really upset. But I can't think of a better way to teach kids about taxes than to let them have a job during the summer where somebody takes taxes out of their paycheck.
Yeah, and that prepares them to vote too. I think they should have to have a job before they're allowed to vote.
Agreed. But that leads, and so then they kind of get a taste of what personal taxes are, but also income taxes, just this whole world of taxation and how it works. But then on the flip side is when they do have money, and we talked about save, the third thing we talked about was, save, shop, and spend. Well, the fifth thing we want to talk about is, you need to give your kids at least the very basics of how to invest and how to start an investment account, and even what that is. Not that you're getting them to start investing.
Or how to not invest.
But how to invest, maybe put it this way, how to invest in your future.
Yeah.
How to save for the future.
Well,
whether it's investing in some form, wherever you put your money, Hannah, it's an investment, whether it's in the bank or it's in CDs or it's in stock or if it's in bonds or under the mattress. You need to give your kids options and kind of introduce them to that idea of saving for the future.
GameStop just, went through that whole thing, as far as like actual investing.
Uh-huh.
And there was some article in the Wall Street Journal. I didn't read the whole thing, but the first opening paragraph of it was some young guy who borrowed thousands and thousands.
20 grand, right?
Yeah, 20 grand, I believe, and invested it into GameStop and then lost it all.
Whoops.
And it's like, understanding that, hey, you never spent money on something like that you can't afford to lose.
Yeah,
and also,
it was borrowed money.
You never borrow money to invest money. It's just...
no, I'm not an investor. I don't understand investing. I have very limited experience.
But a lot of times, very young people make those mistakes.
Right. And so it's good for them to have a taste and an idea of what investing is like, just so they know, because they should know that. And that actually leads into the next one, which was dealing with failure. And we talked about that briefly, when they're going to make mistakes. And the former Stanford dean, she had a great commentary on this. And she wrote this, and I'll just quote her. She says, "An 18-year-old who leaves home must be able to cope with the ups and downs. Courses and workloads, college-level work, competition, tough teachers, bosses, and others. Because the problem is we step in when things get hard. We finish the task, we extend the deadline, and we talk to the adults in charge. Thus, the kids don't know that in the normal course of life, things won't always go their way and that they'll be okay regardless." Where there's this missing component now of allowing kids to fail.
Yeah, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody
wears their 5-point harness in the car.
Yeah.
And bubble wrap and a mouth guard. And it's like, wait a minute. We've insulated our kids too much from consequences.
There's a lot of rescuing.
And helicopter, yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of rescuing. And so, like with Moneypants, where we say, hey, you need to set things up, and in a loving way, just say, okay, hey, tell you what, on Friday, if you've gone all week without a fee, you get to watch a TV show on Friday night. And anybody who doesn't have any fees can do this come Friday night. Oh, but Mom, and one person has to go to bed early.
Oh, and that's so devastating.
And it's so devastating. But the thing is that's not a big deal. And they have a new chance the next week.
Right. And they develop that resilience and that determination.
Acceptance. Yeah. Yep. They accept that, oh no, that was my choice. That's what I did. But I'll have another chance next week.
But they also know that their fate is in their own hands. And that they do have a chance next week, and they can do it, and
there's always a new start. They can always pick themselves up and try again the next week.
Or if they buy something they think is so great, because we all have been there, where you have your heart set on something, you buy it and you get it, and it's not what you hoped.
Oh yeah, Falcon just last week, he was so excited. He went to Hobby Lobby, and he bought us a huge styrofoam airplane, because
he's all into the aeronautics right now and designing airplanes and to test flight and flight school and all this stuff, and he's just really into that. And he got this really cool, it's like a 5-foot wingspan, like this big styrofoam plane.
Yeah, and it was not well made, and it broke very quickly. But because he tried to repair it, I was like, oh, you can't take it back. And you've made modifications to it. Yeah, you can't take it back now. And
despite his modifications, it still wasn't a very good plane.
I said, but next time, you actually make airplanes that are better than this. And so he realized that, wait a minute, looking at the quality is important when I'm buying something.
So he learned a shopping principle, but he also learned about a mistake or basically a failure.
But what was great about it is after he was really disappointed he couldn't take it back and get his money back. So then he went and he made more modifications until it was a sturdy plane.
But here's the thing: traditional current trends, a parent would have intervened.
Would have taken it back or
made a big stink at the store.
Or paid the kid, $7 more and saying, hey, I'm so sorry your plane broke. Here's $7 more.
Go buy something better.
Go buy something else.
No, we're not about rescuing our children from their decisions. We actually need to. It's healthy to let your kids fail. Boy, that sounds awful. That sounds like I'm the worst dad ever. But it is so healthy for kids to learn to pick themselves up when they make mistakes. That resilience, and again, back to what this dean had to say, where kids need to learn to be able to cope with the ups and downs, because it's not going to get easier.
Yeah, you see some kids where, they break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and they're ready to die over something like world. That. You're like, calm down. It's not.
Yeah, it's
life goes on.
Yep.
So,
which leads into number 7, in a way, because we want to give our kids the opportunity to make mistakes, but also we want to help them recognize when someone is going to try to take advantage of them. And so we put down here, recognizing scams and Ponzi schemes, or in this case, or as you mentioned, credit card offers, like things that are too good to be true, to kind of, and I don't know how to describe this other than to give them a sense of common sense before they leave home. You want them to be somewhat aware that there is a world out there that could potentially take advantage of them.
Yeah.
So we want our kids to, at the very least, have a little bit of common sense, but also a ear to the ground, a nose for when it smells too good to be true, to go, wait a minute, and to do their research and to do their shopping. So I guess it's kind of it's all kind of related.
Knowing what credible sources are and stuff, and also understanding that you work for what you get.
Right.
But don't let people who don't work take advantage of you if you do work.
Which leads into number 8, which, speaking of work, we want our kids to know how to apply for a job. What are the steps? Like, how do you dress? How do you act? How do you handle yourself during an interview? When I was 16, I got a job at Burger King, and there were 4 of us all applying for the job, and I was shocked. I thought, for some reason, I had people who helped me out and prepared me. And they're like, oh yeah, you do your hair, dress nicely, go in. And I think I even had a tie on. But at the very least, I had a shirt, a clean shirt with a collar, and my pants and my shoes, and my hair was done, and I looked good. And I showed up for this interview. I was the 4th one. The previous 3, I watched as they went in, and they had the long hair. One dude had a tattered t-shirt on. Another guy smelled bad. And I was shocked because I'm like, oh, is that how you're supposed to show up for an interview? I didn't know. This was my first real job interview. All the other jobs I'd had up to that point were either given to me or people I knew. This was my first real job interview. And I get in there and I sit down and we talk for 5 minutes. I don't even remember any of the questions. And the guy says, you're hired. You're such a breath of fresh air compared to the other guys I interviewed. And I was like, what? And I was shocked. But at the same time, I guess that was just how, because I had somebody kind of clue me in of this is how you prepare for an interview, I got the job.
Yeah, and the way that Moneypants will help with that is as your kids get older, the pay for Moneypants does not change, but maybe some of their needs do. Like maybe they have earned a car and they need to put gas in it or something like that. So maybe they have more expenses and coming along, or they want to save for some of these things. But chances are, if you're using Moneypants, your kids will want a job outside the home as soon as they can get one. And
because they realize Moneypants doesn't pay enough.
Yeah, and so they'll naturally have to learn these skills before they leave home. So when they leave home, they'll have a little bit of a resume as well. They won't be like,
right,
because it's so. I had cleaned houses for people, but I had never done a job interview and had a real job. And when I was in college, it was a real blow to my confidence that I had never done that before. Where I'm like, how do you get a job? And that sounded really stupid because everybody else was had jobs before and kind of knew what it was all about.
Well, supposedly.
Yeah, but
there were a lot of kids that didn't.
Even so, I admired the people who had, where they were more grown up. They knew more. They were so much more confident. But the nice thing about Moneypants is that they'll be motivated to get that job before they leave home. And so then when they're in college and maybe they really desperately need a job, they'll probably be able to get a better job than the people who are stepping in and this is their very first job. They have no resume or work history.
You have an advantage.
Yeah, your kids will have an advantage, just that little bit of an advantage when they need it.
And going back to something we were saying a couple minutes ago about how to recognize a Ponzi scheme or whether or not a credit card's a good deal or whether this business opportunity is a good deal and how we wanted to kind of give our kids that edge or that skill. Well, that's number 9, is how to do research. We want our kids to be able to, by the time they leave home, they know how to research stuff. And this kind of goes back to the whole shopping principle but research is more like how to get a background on somebody, or how to get product reviews, or how to get the statistics on a certain product, maybe the crash reports or the safety reports for a certain car or a certain product.
So they're not gullible.
Gullible. To help our kids enter into the real world not being gullible. That may be the best way to put it.
And I feel like I'm speaking from sad experience, really. But I'm pretty sure my kids are going to be better off.
I think our kids are going to be way better off than we were.
Way better off than I was. So,
but also, research could also apply to scholastic things like, how to use Google Scholar or how to look things up on the internet and how to parse truth from fiction. Like, oh, I read it on Facebook, therefore it must be true.
Actually, yeah, that actually goes to, I don't know what number it was, where you said read, write, and communicate.
Right.
Our suggestion there that we've found is the best way to go
20,
about that.
That's number 26.
Is to actually have your kids, encourage your kids to participate in speech and debate programs.
Right.
But speech and debate also teaches them to look things up.
Yeah, so a lot of these kind of overlap.
Things,
yeah, sure.
And to make sure they're getting credible sources.
Right.
And so that's another advantage of that, where it's a very practical skill.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that I didn't know what speech and debate programs were, but for teaching kids how to research, how to communicate and persuade others, how to write, and how to read and comprehend, nothing has been better than speech and debate.
Yep.
And it's the most impressive thing that I have seen.
And we'll talk about more about that in a minute.
So, but that's a good way to teach your kids how to research and identify what's true and question whether something is true.
On to number 10. The number 10 thing your kids should learn before they leave home is how to do their own laundry. And this may seem like, well, duh, but how many kids leave home not knowing how to do their own laundry? I had a friend in college who did not know how the dryer worked and accidentally shrunk all of his underwear. So it looked like he had a bikini. It was comical, but sad because he had all this underwear that basically got ruined because he left it in the dryer too long and didn't know how to do the laundry properly. So that's another skill, just basic skill. And we even
I ruined all your laundry right after we got married.
No.
Remember your favorite shirt?
Yes,
yeah,
I do.
I do.
I was going to let you off the hook.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, so obviously you would learn laundry with Moneypants, and you can either make that somebody's job to do everybody in the family's laundry, or you can put everybody just in charge of their own laundry.
But they need to do it.
So they can,
and we have the training videos that we did where it shows here are the steps.
Yeah.
When to use hot water, when to use cold water, what detergent to use, what detergents not to use.
Yeah, and you might be like, oh, I don't want my kids doing the laundry.
Yes, you do.
They're gonna mess up their clothes. Let me tell you, out of sad experience, it is much better to mess up your clothes now than when you are a newlywed and have no money to replace those clothes. Right. Okay, I promise you. It's so much better for them to goof up right now.
Number 11 is your kids should know how to cook. At the very least, understand the basics of cooking. And I'm not talking microwave. I'm talking like actually how to brown some ground beef, or how to make a simple soup, or how to
turn
cook
on a gas stove.
Oh, yeah, or how to cook bread. Like
how to use knives.
I'm not talking about how to pour a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like basic cooking things. I'm not talking Gordon Ramsay if you have a 5-course meal. I'm talking
how to plan a meal so that it includes the 5 food groups.
Right.
So they're getting nutrition. And but yeah, how to actually cook things like rice or noodles, and if you don't know that, you are at a serious disadvantage once you leave home, because you have to rely on either your roommates or on fast food
pre-made
or
foods that are
nasty pre-made,
or they're expensive
foods. So knowing how to cook gives you a lot of freedom and better nutrition.
Now, I will say this. I knew basics of cooking, but the recipes I knew were awful. Hannah, remember I cooked them for you and you're like, oh, wow, that's because
Spam with beans. It was really bad, honey.
It was nasty. Tater tot casserole.
You're like, I love this. You put in a can of pineapple, some cut up Spam, and some beans. And I'm like, really?
It was, in hindsight, Hannah, it was disgusting.
Delicious.
It was disgusting. But here's the thing. I knew how to do it. And I had that confidence of I could feed myself, and it didn't cost a lot of money, and it was
It's like a homeless dish.
Yes, it really was.
You were.
It really
I'm
was.
So sorry. All right.
So number 12, every one of our children should know how to run the home. Just basic running the home.
Yeah, and with Moneypants, as long as, every year you're assigning out chores to people and, slowly rotating through all the chores, they're going to be fine by the time they leave home. You won't even have to think about this. This won't even be
because they'll know how to clean the bathrooms.
Anxiety.
They'll know how to do the laundry. They'll know how to do the dishes. They'll know how to sweep and mop.
And as they're assigned different jobs, they'll learn things like, for example, they're cleaning the bathroom. You'll teach them, hey, don't mix bleach with ammonia. You don't mix your cleaning supplies. You'll kill yourself if you do that, or somebody else, and so they'll learn the basic skills as they're going. The other thing is with Moneypants, there's the mastery. Where do you find the mastery?
Under reports.
So if you go under reports.
An individual, that's the first thing. So you go to a user's page, and then on the right, there's the reports. It's the first report. It's called Mastery.
It's called Mastery. And so when you're assigning out jobs and deciding, at the beginning of the year who should do what job, you can go there. And this is particularly helpful for your kids as they're getting older. You click on the Mastery, and it will tell you what jobs your kid has already done.
Right. And how many times they've, done it
and how
consistently.
Well, yeah. So you
no, let me back up. The way mastery points work is you only get one mastery point for every week that goes by that you didn't miss a day.
Yeah.
So you actually had to have done the job every day for a week, and then you get one mastery point.
Yeah. And so you can glance at that and go, oh my goodness, you've never mopped a floor. Or
at the very least, you've never
had the job of dishes. Yeah. Wait,
it's a great tracking tool.
You've never cooked meals before. Mm-hmm. You've never had the job of preparing meals.
And you can see at a glance what the gaps are in their domestic education. Like, what are they missing? Yeah. We're like, oh, wow, how did you get away from never doing the bathrooms? Or why didn't you ever do the dishes? Or how do you not know how to...
How did you never have a rotation doing cooking?
Right.
Preparing the meals. And so they'll naturally learn all those things. If every year you just keep doing that, they'll be more than prepared by the time they leave home. They'll be like, it'll be so easy for them to run a home. And
they'll also learn along the way how to plunge a toilet and turn off the water if it's overflowing.
Hey, funny story about that. My poor mom, when you have toddlers and you're from a big family, so they're always toddlers, the toilets get clogged a lot. Because
they like putting G.I. Joe down there,
or
blocks down there.
Or the entire roll of toilet paper down there. And so...
Or who knows what.
We're not really sure sometimes. So...
I don't want to know.
Yeah, actually you do. The last time we threw away a toilet, you had to crack it open and find out what was in there.
It was one of those nice butter knives.
Yes.
I asked if you wanted to use it.
You just said you didn't want to know. You did want to know.
I did want to know. Because it was driving me crazy.
We couldn't just leave it on the side of the road.
I asked if you wanted to keep using it.
Oh, the butter knife? No. I thought you meant the toilet. Anyway, but...
After it's been in the toilet for 6 months? No.
Oh, gosh, my poor mom. So you'd hear the cry of, the toilet's overflowing. And my mom would do the closest thing she would ever do to swearing. She never swore, but, I once heard her say the D word. I will say that. Anyway, but... But the closest to my mom ever got to swearing was when she'd hear those words, the toilet's overflowing, and the toilet would be overflowing. It's coming out of the bathroom and onto the carpet. And my mom was like, ah! And she'd grab the plunger and start plunging like a mad woman. Plunge, 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 you stupid toilet. Anyway, so this went on for years and years. And so after I got married, I did the same thing. The toilet's overflowing. I did exactly what I'd seen my mom do for years. And my husband said, why don't you just turn the toilet off? Did you know that? You just reach down there and turn the little knob and the water stops flowing. Anyway, it's just one of those things where if nobody ever told you that that's what that little knob behind the toilet does, you wouldn't know. And
that's the thing. Hannah, most of these things that we're talking about take all of a couple of minutes.
Yeah, these aren't. Yeah.
These aren't big things, but for some reason, kids leave home and they're like, "Wait, I never learned that."
Yeah, if you don't know it, you don't know it.
But if you have the rotation going on in the money and using Moneypants and just paying attention, everyone will get this opportunity, and it'll all kind of happen naturally, which is cool. Number 13, every kids should learn to clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a funny one because I've noticed that this is a problem. Well, no, if you don't believe this is a problem, I'll give you a quick example. Go to any public restroom.
Oh, right.
Where for some reason we have lost the art of simply cleaning up after ourselves. If we make a mess, we clean it up. If we spill something, we wipe it up. If we track mud in the house, we clean up. Like for some reason, we've lost that in our society in general. And I think it's because it's not being taught.
You know what's funny is you once told, like somebody once said a quote about, hey, what you do when nobody else is looking is like who you really are, that sort of thing. And taking responsibility is what makes you into an adult. And ever since I heard that, now when I go in the bathroom and it's a mess because people aren't cleaning up after themselves, for my own sake, I pick up and clean it up. And I feel like such a grown-up. The trick, though,
try
it out. You'll feel that way too.
The trick, though, is with little kids, though. How do you teach that? Because
so I kind of goofed with this, like with my first, when I started out as a mom, I would pick up after my kids, and I wouldn't really teach them to clean after themselves.
I think a lot of moms make this mistake.
I would teach them to clean up, like, hey, it's job time, let's clean up. But I really didn't do a good job teaching them to clean up as they go.
Right.
And I really messed up on that. And I if I could go back in time, I would have started doing that from the get-go.
I didn't learn that, Hannah, until I was 19 years old. And I read a book, and I believe the guy's name was Richard Astle. And he wrote a book. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but it was something like he was this cleaning expert. And I read his book, and it was a quirky book. And one of the principles he talked about was clean as you go, because it takes milliseconds. It's like really easy just to clean as you go. And I was like, oh yeah, huh? And it just resonated with me. I'm like,
and it made sense to you.
But nobody ever taught me that. And here's the problem when teaching little kids. It's hard to teach little kids that because the only way to do it is to catch them in the act.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is because I didn't do that myself. I didn't clean up as I went. I would just like set things here, set things there, and I wouldn't just take the extra 2 seconds to put it away or to shut the cabinet or whatever. And so it wasn't something I really understood or practiced, so I wasn't teaching it to my kids.
Right.
And so here was a bad habit I had, and so then it like multiplied. And so taking that extra time to tell your kids, nope, before you go play, you need to clear your place from the table and rinse it out. Nope, before you do this next activity, you need to put those toys away.
Right.
And the reason why is because otherwise you have 4 kids and all of a sudden your house turns into a holy disaster, within an hour of people being awake.
Yeah.
And so
because they just go from mess to mess.
Yeah. And so because that wasn't, anyway, I goofed up on that. And so I'm trying to make up for it, but I feel a little overwhelmed with that because it took me longer to figure it out for myself.
And what's the alternative is if we don't teach our kids that, then where's the world going? Like, if nobody ever cleaned up after themselves, that's bad.
Yeah. And so hopefully, even though I'm starting late, it's better to start now, teaching them that now because maybe they won't run into the same problem I ran into and, learn it at a later date when they're like, I wish I'd known this sooner.
And the easiest way to do this is when somebody makes a mess or a spill or you catch them cleaning up, quick points.
Yeah.
Quick points work really well. And they'll actually start doing it and making sure you see it just so they can get quick points.
Yes.
And that's proven to be very effective. All right.
So
number 14 is personal hygiene.
Personal hygiene. And this is great. You can make goals on Moneypants about this, once your kids are, old enough to go to the bathroom and the toilet, you can say, okay, flush the toilet. Let's start there. When they're 8 years old or, 7 or 8, start giving them points for flossing their teeth. And when they're 12, start giving them points for showering daily, or wearing deodorant, things like that. So,
and everyone will benefit.
Yeah. So you can incorporate that in there. And then there's like American Girl came out with a book, I don't know how long ago, 10 years ago or so, that was like for girls, personal hygiene.
Right.
And it covered all sorts of topics.
Very
about
tastefully
taking care
done.
of their skin,
Yeah.
taking care of their monthly needs, sanitary needs, and so forth. Anyway, so that's a good book to give to your daughters when they're probably about 10 or 11
Right.
years old.
And again, it could just be a simple thing as a daily habit for them. Number 15, time management. And this is, again, I didn't ever learn this, Hannah. And so this is something I've actually struggled with my whole life, is I never learned proper time management. And I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but to develop good study habits and to maintain balance, and also how to say no. Like those are skills that I wish I had leaving home, but I did not. I did not have that concept of time management. I was never taught. And so I've kind of had to glean. And unfortunately, the habits of time management are harder and harder to change the older you get. And so it's critical that when the kids are in the home, that's when you teach them these skills of how to maintain balance and how to use their time appropriately. And I like how we put in there how to say no.
Yeah.
Where
when I was in college, I would say yes to everything, and so I ended up like
that's why we got married.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Do you want 15 children?
Yes. Yes. Anyway, I had a
Great.
hard time. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to get along with people. And so I would say yes to everything. And I was saying yes to too many things. And so I was doing it at the expense of sleep and at the expense of any sort of balance.
'Cause you were overcommitted.
in my, any sort of balance in my life. But I would like go to like ridiculous ends to make sure I met these little favors to other people. Well, I finally, started having a hard time and ended up going to counseling. And the counselor's like, you need to learn to say no to people. And so you need to try this out. So I started trying it out. And what I realized very quickly, and I wasn't good at saying no. I had never practiced saying no. And what I realized was when I said no, first off, it surprised some people because they were used to me saying yes to everything. But what I realized was that the people who were asking me to do things, they knew I would do it and they knew I would say yes, but they were just using me. I thought I was making friends and that they liked me, but instead I realized that they were just a lot of times using me and they had zero respect for me. And it didn't become evident until I began saying no. And
what a powerful tool.
And
what a powerful skill to have.
I had a faculty professor say to me, what happened to the Hannah who curtsies and smiles and says yes and does whatever we want?
Yep.
And I was like,
she grew up.
That's how you think of me?
Yeah.
Holy cow. No!
Well,
no. And then somebody else asked me to do some crazy thing last minute, some big film project. And I was like, oh my goodness. And he was in charge of this thing for the whole university. It was supposed to, be this big video that they show to a big audience, blah, blah, blah. And it was 2 weeks away and they had desperately needed somebody to do this. And I said, well, let me think about it. And I had gone to my therapist or whatever, and I got it, and I said, you know what? I actually don't have time to do this. I need to say no. And so I said, I'm so sorry, but the answer's no. He goes, yeah, I actually saved it for the last minute. We'd known about it all year, but nobody did it, so I was just hoping maybe you could do it. And it wasn't... But he made it sound like he was desperate and that they needed me and blah, blah, blah. And it turned out they had just procrastinated and then were trying to just...
Slough it off onto
somebody and make themselves look... And I was just like, You
dirty rat.
Wow. No is a very good thing to know how to say.
That's a skill, Hannah.
So,
it's a skill.
So I wanted my kids to learn to say no. Mm-hmm. And what I found is that when you use directed spending... where the kids have to make decisions about things, like little things, like how to buy, what they want to buy.
Within boundaries.
So like, do you want to buy this shoe, this shoe, this shoe, this shoe, this shoe? And you give them options and they are like, they learn to say no.
I'm going to do a plug here for that video. That is one of my favorite videos we've done to date is the directed spending video. It's on the website.
Yeah.
I think it's under support materials, and just go find the directed spending video. It's so good. It is so good. It really does a good job of explaining this concept, but demonstrating it.
Yeah.
And I like it a lot.
Yeah. And
because it's true.
Yeah. And so where they're doing this shopping and they're learning to pick out what they want, but say no to the things that they don't want. And what I found is that when my kids started dating and things like that, that ability to say no to things that they don't want or that they're not interested in, they're very confident in it. I wish I had confidence to say no to things that I didn't want, but I didn't. And so I'm going to give credit to the whole directed spending idea, because that
our kids know how to say no.
Yeah, they do.
But this whole time management thing, I guess it's related because that leads into number 16, which is the skill of going to bed. And you may think that that's a funny skill to have, but for a lot of us, that is a skill, and it's a challenge. Where I remember in college, and maybe I'm just going back to my college days, but I think a lot of college students go through this. They stay out too late, and they really overdo it, and they make themselves sick, and they can't function in their other classes, and it's unhealthy for them to stay out so late. And I remember being jealous of one of my friends, one of my roommates, who would go to bed at like 10 o'clock. And this is college where everybody stays up till 1 a.m. And he would routinely go to bed at 10 o'clock because he knew he had a class the next day and he had to get enough sleep because he had a big exam coming up. And I was like, dang it, I wish I had that skill. Well, once again, with Moneypants, and we actually recommend this, everyone should have as one of their 10 habits a bedtime. It doesn't mean that everyone has to have the same bedtime, but everyone should have a bedtime that they're working towards. And I've noticed even in recent years, Hannah, mobile devices have like built-in bedtime schedules and ways to make sure you go to sleep on time and wake up and have this regular routine. That's a skill that every kid should have by the time they leave home. Time management coupled with the ability to go to bed and to go to bed on time, because going to bed on time makes a world of difference.
Yeah, and when your kids are little, you pick the bedtime for them.
Right.
But as your kids are like maybe in high school or whatever, you can have more of a discussion of, hey, a healthy amount of sleep is 8 hours. But, if you're growing, you need more sleep.
And if you're working out heavily or doing something physically strenuous.
Or you're dealing with sickness or something, you need more sleep. And so the idea is you want to go to bed early enough that it isn't difficult for you to wake up in the morning when you need to. And so where you wake up and you're like, wow, I'm ready to go. And if you're not feeling that way, then you need to move your bedtime. And so you get them thinking about, okay, all right, if I'm waking up at 6, what time do I need to go to bed?
And you back into it.
Yeah. And so using that when you're setting the goals and talking about the bedtime goal, discussing, okay, what time do you have to wake up in the morning? How are you going to get enough sleep? And coming up with strategies. And part of that strategy is probably turning off their phone and having their phone automatically turn off.
Or giving it to mom or dad at a certain time or whatever.
Yeah,
or having all the computers shut off or the internet turn off at a certain time.
Yeah.
That really helps.
So discussions like that help. So
okay, number 17, every kid should know how to properly dress for the occasion and what their dress and attire should be. And we talk about this in our family where what you wear communicates and dictates how other people treat you.
The best way to, I think, the best introduction to that topic about using your clothing to communicate is the show What Not to Wear. And if you've never seen that show, they take women who maybe are dressing extreme or dressing frumpy or dressing not their age, and they help them identify kind of the underlying problems as to why they're dressing the way that they are.
Right.
And they help them dress appropriately
and it's transformative every time. It's so cool to watch.
Yeah, but they find out what they really are hoping to communicate through their dress, and they find a good way, a better way to communicate it, and the way to.
So they find these women and they talk with them, and they kind of spend some time with them, and they really get down to the hosts really kind of drill down into the woman's psyche and go, what is it that you're really trying to and hoping to communicate with how you're dressing? And the women, a lot of times, first of all, they don't know. They're like, oh, I just want to be cute, or I want to be whatever. And they don't realize that how they're dressing is not communicating what they're hoping. And so the hosts help these women realize, first of all, help them vocalize what it is they're trying to accomplish, but secondly, realize that maybe the way they're going about it isn't effective. And so the hosts go and they kind of guide them through the process of redefining their wardrobe. And it's kind of neat to watch because it's psychological, but it's also very practical, where the woman actually ends up being better dressed than she was before, but also more confident that she's conveying what she wanted to convey all along simply by the clothes that she wears and how she holds herself and how she does her make. Oh, and they do a makeover too. What they have a makeup artist come in, and not a makeup artist. Is she a makeup artist? Yeah. Comes in and helps them do their hair and their makeup to communicate what the woman wants to communicate all along, but wasn't doing such a great job at. And it's fun. It's cool to watch.
So that's a fantastic show for introducing the idea that how you dress communicates, is a way of communicating to others how you want to be seen, how you want to be treated, and whatnot. And then on top of that, there are tons of YouTube videos. And so that give tips on how to dress attractively and for men or women. So you could set a goal, like if you're like, gosh, I want to learn how to shop better. I want to learn how to be more stylish or dress better. You could set a goal of, hey, I'm going to spend 30 minutes each week either watching What Not to Wear or watching YouTube videos.
It's a weekly habit. There you go.
Yeah. And wow, you improve your ability to dress yourself better. That's huge. So,
and that goes right into the next one, number 18, hair, how to do hair, where nobody ever taught me how to do hair. And I remember going back and looking at pictures of myself when I was younger, and I'm embarrassed. I'm like, why didn't somebody say I look like a dork? Why didn't somebody clue me in and say, hey, dude, just a little bit of hair gel right there, man. It make all the difference. Or, you probably shouldn't grow your hair long on the sides. I don't know, something like that. Why didn't somebody tell me? Oh. And I wish someone had just taken the time.
It's funny, yeah. The hair, like, it just makes such a big difference in how people see you or perceive you and how you come across, like whether you're cool or whether you're a nerd or an oddball or it's just
okay. Next time you go out, pay attention just to people's hair and what it communicates to you. And you're going to be shocked, first of all, at how many people have horrible hair. But secondly, you'd be like, wow, that person and the way they did their hair communicates X, Y, and Z to me. Mm-hmm. And then think about how your hair, what that might be communicating to other people. So having and whether it's go ahead.
Yeah, well, I always had long, gorgeous hair, but the thing is I never learned how to really style it very well. Back when I was a kid, you were kind of limited to, what resources, if you knew somebody who knew how to do hair or if there was something at the public library. But now you have YouTube.
Right.
And YouTube, it's so fun. They have all sorts of hairstyling classes. There's Cute Girl Hairstyles, which will teach you basics like how to, do a braid and, stuff like that, like real basic hairdos. But you have all sorts of, my girls and I like Alex Gabori. Her hairstyles are gorgeous, but they're really easy to do on your own hair if you have
she's
like
on
long
YouTube?
hair. Yeah, she's on YouTube. And so what my girls like to do is they'll make goals on Moneypants saying, hey, watch a YouTube video once a week to learn a new hairstyle and practice it on yourself and somebody else every day. and that will be their daily habit.
Oh, that's great.
And so it's nice. Like my daughter Trixie did that for quite a while, and she knows all these hairstyles, and she would do other girls' hairs too, like as a favor. And
No, girls would come to her and ask her to do their hair.
And she looks so much, she has this gorgeous hair, but I was like, gosh, if she just wore it down all the time, it would just seem like a big mop. But instead she does all these elegant hairdos and stuff, and it makes her look so much more confident. And our other daughters do that as well.
Well, they followed suit.
And what's funny is even with these YouTube videos, even very young girls can learn to do hairstyles. So one of my daughters, when she was like 7, was doing all these hairstyles and does her own hair.
She was younger. She was 6.
Okay.
She was 6 years old.
She styles her own hair better than I could style my hair when I was in college. And so really being able to do your own hair is a skill. And it seems like a little skill, but you should learn that before you go, because how to do your hair for work, how to do your hair, when you go to the gym, or how to do it for school or on a date.
But also when kids leave home and they've never had this experience, a lot of times they'll get bizarre haircuts, or they'll try cutting their hair or doing their own hair. So you want to kind of get that out of their system when they're at home. And we talk about letting your kids fail, letting them learn some of these things when they're at home. And I know parents are like mortified. Oh my gosh, I'd never let my kids cut their own hair. Yeah, well, you want them doing that when they leave home?
Yeah.
Then they don't get the job, or they don't get the relationship, or whatever it may be. Why not get those out of the system when they're at home? So like girls traditionally, never ceases to amaze me. They'll go off, have this long, beautiful hair. They'll go off to college and they'll cut it off. Every time. The freshman girls always make that mistake. Or guys, they'll go off to college. Next time you see them, they've got a buzz. Like, what happened? Oh, well, my buddies and I, we found a pair of clippers and off we went. Where it'd be better if they did that and practiced those things while they were at home.
Or worse, they just let it grow out into
that too.
This big nasty, but don't know how to don't bother to shampoo it. And it's so gross. Yeah.
So that's
a lot of mistakes.
Number 18, how to do hair. Good. Number 19, social skills and etiquette. Boy, is this a good one because kids model what they see. And this is so critical to learn in the home, where you can correct the mistakes, but also kind of teach the things that you would hope your kids would need to survive in modern society, where teaching them how to talk to people, but also how to recognize and discern who to talk to and when to talk. Just have that social grace of talking to people.
So,
and I'm going to go back to what this dean said, on which we based this whole podcast. This former Stanford dean said, oh, well, kids need to learn how to talk to strangers, because we teach them, all growing up, don't talk to strangers. And then all of a sudden we send them on their own and they're surrounded by strangers. Yeah, I get that's kind of a problem. But I think even more important would be how to properly engage in meaningful conversation, and how to have those social skills of basic communication with others outside the family, outside your peer group, how to expand your reach to those around you, whether they're a stranger or not.
Yeah, great courses and master classes. They have lecturers who kind of give tips on things like that. But I also found that as far as like etiquette and manners, like introducing people, saying hello for the first time, answering the phone. And so for the next, we have social skills etiquette, then we have dating skills and etiquette, internet and phone etiquette. Udemy, is it Udemy?
Udemy.
No, Udemy.com.
I think it's Udemy.
Udemy?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Like, is it like Academy for you? I don't know.
Udemy more.
I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Udemy.
Udemy Lovato? I don't know.
Okay. They offer courses on etiquette in these different areas. That seems to be the best source for etiquette classes that I've found so far. There might be stuff on YouTube, but as far as like teaching young children etiquette, what I found was a lot of the etiquette things that I looked up for kids spent 90% of the time demonstrating what the wrong behavior was.
As opposed to focusing on, because kids need models.
Yeah, they need models. And so when I tried showing it, when I tried showing it to my kids, they ended up instead picking up on the bad behavior instead of the right behavior. Instead of this is what you should be doing. This is, chew with your mouth closed and whatever. And this is how to be polite. Instead, they were demonstrating all the bad behaviors and then saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that."
Not helpful, because that's what kids.
No,
we talk about this monkey see, monkey do. Kids model the behavior they see.
Focusing on what you don't want them to do was not helpful. And so I've had better luck with the Udemy courses.
But along those lines, though, Hannah, one of the tools that we've used for a long time, for almost 2 decades now, with our children to help with social skills and etiquette is when we would send our kids out to either scouts or church group or youth group or sports teams or anything, we would send our kids with behavior reports and have their leaders or coaches or teachers sign them. And they would be things like, well, did I arrive on time? Was I prepared? And was I respectful? Those are the 3 questions. And then we would insist on having the leader's signature at the bottom. And we would collect those at the end of the week. And whoever had their behavior report signed would either get extra money for, they'd mark their points, or we used them as movie ticket vouchers.
Yeah. So we'd use it as, instead of the no fees, we would use that as the,
Matter of fact, we even had one teacher come to us because when we fell into, kind of hard times, we weren't able to do this for a while. And he actually came to us and he was like, "Hey, is there any way you could use that again? Because behavior was so much better when you were using those behavior reports." You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So those were really effective, a wonderful tool. And I think we have those on our website. You can download and print them out. It's just, I think we call them movie ticket vouchers.
I don't think we have that on our website yet.
Okay, well, we'll put it on there.
Okay.
But it's very simple. It's just
maybe when we do the blog for this.
The name of the person and the date, and then the 3 questions: did I arrive on time? Yes or no? Was I prepared? Yes or no? And was I respectful? Yes or no? And then a place for the person to sign. And it was so effective. And our kids, they'd get so distraught if they ever lost theirs too. They're like, "No," because every no that they got would cost them $1.
Yeah. Well, and I was using that because I was doing charter school where the kids, they're not in regular public school, but but we have public school funding. And so I would use that to hire tutors and stuff.
And so we would send them to the local church to do their writing class.
Yeah. But the teachers didn't have like report cards and grades and stuff as much to motivate the kids. So they needed something to help with that, and some form of accountability.
And that worked really well.
Yes.
So that leads to number 20, which is dating skills and etiquette. And this, boy, if there was ever a time where this was necessary, these are definitely things I want my kids to know before they leave home, where I want my kids to kind of make up their minds what the rules are and what their limits are and what it is that they're going to do and allow and participate in when they start dating. And when they're at home, that's a much better time for them to come up with these ideas and to make the decisions before they start dating. The time to decide what your standards are is before you're faced with the decision of what your standards are. In other words, the time to learn to drive the car is before you start driving the car. Where you want your kids to come up with these rules and these standards and these basic dating skills before they start dating and come up with their own personal code of conduct.
As far as etiquette on a date, Udemy had courses on that as well, as I mentioned.
So a lot of cool information on Udemy. And then that leads right into internet. And actually, we're going to stop there. Okay, so this topic is a lot bigger than we can cover in a single podcast, and we kind of figured that because it's a really big topic, like all these things that every kid should know before they leave home. So we're going to take a break here and pick this up again in our next podcast. And and we'll talk about ways to implement all these skills in a very simple way. And we've kind of talked about those, but we have a couple more ideas on really the easiest way to implement all of these ideas. And as always, if you like what you hear in this podcast, please tell your friends. They may want to listen too. And if you have a suggestion for a future podcast, go to our website under support and click Contact Us. Send us an email and we'll get right on it. And that's it for today. Enjoy some of Falcon Jasper's Kickin' Kaleidoscopic Karaoke. We'll see you next time.